So maybe you've been with a narcissist, or you just recently found out that the person that you're with is exemplifying those toxic traits, and you're wondering, is it really worth it? Is it something that I can actually sign up to and stick with, or work through, or make this happen? And the question really today is just a question a lot of people are asking as they find out that they're in a toxic relationship. Is being with a narcissist really worth it? If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. That's what Raw Motivation stands for, and you can find us on all the different platforms out there. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, everywhere under Raw Motivation. So give us a follow, help us out as we're trying to build awareness to let people know what narcissistic abuse is, have them understand it's real, and it's stuff that does destroy and damage a lot of people. A lot of times I'm working with people on a day-to-day basis, helping coach them through the abusive relationship and work on changing their mindset to start that healing process. To do so, we start working with the trauma bond. The idea of, hey, I know in my mind and in my head that this person isn't healthy for me, but I still want to go back. I still want to interact. I still want to be with them. And so we work to try to change your mindset, to try to work on rewiring the story that's in your life and in your heart to be able to have it based on facts and based on the truth of the situation, because the truth is the only thing that's going to set you free. I try to work with people to help them break free from that mindset, that mental lock, and to get through the detox phase of getting away from a toxic person and a person that's addictive in nature. And then as we continue moving forward, we focus on the vision of the direction we're going and how that actually builds boundaries to keep you from going back to a narcissist or to keep you from getting involved with a toxic person down the road. If you want to interact with me sometime, would love to have you reach out. Just go to rawmotivations.com, click on one-on-ones, we can set up a time. If you haven't had a chance, go to narcapp.com, N-A-R-C-A-P-P, narcapp.com to learn a little bit more about the community that we're building to help people heal, grow, and change with tracking your no contact, journaling, with courses, with exercises, with weekly lives inside there to get to know other people and get challenged of what you need to work on week to week, and also monthly coaching calls where we have people come in from outside of the app to help us grow in our perspective and reality of what's happening. So feel free to check that out. So diving in today, when you start to get that clarity of like, wait a second, the person that I'm with seems to be a toxic person. They seem to be narcissistic. You have to have some idea of like, okay, now what do I do? Because as soon as you Google narcissist, it's like narcissist, leave, narcissist, never change, narcissist, all this stuff. And you're like, whoa, what do I actually do? Is this actually something that I'm willing to sign up for? And is it actually going to get better? What's actually going to happen? Well, as you're starting to learn different things about narcissists, you have to understand that question of, is it worth it, comes a lot of times with a price that you have to pay. Sometimes that price that you have to pay is simply just adjusting your expectations. Adjusting what you thought was going to be a healthy relationship now looks a little bit less than what you originally thought it was going to be. Maybe you have to change some of your definitions of what you're expecting or what you're thinking in the relationship and how that actually is viewed going forward. I'll give you an example. Sometimes the idea would be, okay, what about how this person loves you? Well, you have to think through, how does this person demonstrate love? But then you also have to question yourself, how do you view love? What do you view it as being? Because a lot of times your view and your definition of love is going to be very different than a narcissistic or a toxic person's definition of love. They might not have the respect. They might not have the honor. They might not want your highest good. Instead, they want their own. And this isn't an aspect of like you just being codependent on another person, but it's the aspect of like, hey, is this person actually going to love and respect me and treat me right? Treat me nice? What does that definition actually look like? You might have to change your definition if you want to stay with a toxic person. The other thing might be your time, your attention. Now, how is that actually demonstrated from that toxic person of, are they actually giving you that time? Are they actually spending time with you, developing, investing in you? Oftentimes people have to adjust of what you actually want out of that relationship because it's not going to be what you're walking into. The other one that I would say a lot of times is intimacy. I'm not talking about sex, but I'm talking about your connectedness. Your connectedness emotionally, relationally, spiritually, like what level of depth you want to have with that other person, and understanding if you're with a narcissist and they haven't shown that change or that honesty, you're probably not going to get it. Especially if they're not waking up to who they are and what they need to do to change. Then you have to decide what you will or what you won't settle for. A lot of times when people are debating about the question of the hope, the potential, the possibility of this person changing, they're latching themselves onto a pipe dream that's not really going to happen. They're expecting it to get fixed, it to get better, but the majority of the time they're just wondering if they can make it work or if they can settle for something less than oftentimes they've been called to actually experience. And you know this many times as you've been in a relationship and you've thought and you've minimized the abuse, or you've minimized how they've treated you, or they minimize the lack of love and respect, and you're thinking like, well, maybe it'll work. All you're doing at that point is just settling for less instead of rising up to what you should be getting or what you want or what you need to have in your life based on mutual respect, based on honesty, based on love, based on a whole litany of things. So be thinking through what it actually looks like. If you're going to stay with a narcissist, you have to question yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth my expectations not being where I want them? Is it worth my definitions of love, of time of attention, of intimacy? Is that worth it? You have to think through that. One of the phrases my wife used on our podcast when we were recording one time is she mentioned to people, you have to choose your hard. Because it's going to be hard to stay with a toxic person or a narcissist or someone who's challenged in that area. It's going to be hard to stay with that person, and it's also going to be hard to go. In those times, it's dealing with and it's deciding which one is the most painful, which one is going to be the hardest, which one is going to be the most able to grow or change, like which one is it actually going to be. And you have to sit there and debate for a while of, should I stay or should I go? At the end of the day, both decisions are going to be hard, but you have to choose which hard you want. Now, maybe you're on here today and you're like, but my narcissists, they're not really that abusive. Like, my narcissists, they don't really talk to me like that. Like, they don't cheat. Like, we've been together 24/7, so they definitely don't cheat on me. Like, that's not something, so they can't be a narcissist, right? Maybe they don't lie. Like, they actually tell me the truth. Like, it hurts, but they're just, like, radical with me. They just tell me everything. They don't manipulate. And a lot of times people, when say that, I'm just kind of like, okay. Like, are you sure? I know a lot of people that say the narcissist doesn't cheat, and they're the ones that are getting cheated on. And there are a lot of people that say they aren't abusive, and then I talk to them, and I'm like, wait a second, like, that's actually abusive. And I was talking to someone a little bit earlier today in a coaching call, and we're working through something, and they referenced their partner interacting with one of the kids, and mentioned how, like, it was actually, like, a good relationship, but that person hurt the other person. I'm like, wait a second, like, it might look good from the kid to the parent, to the other adult, but at the end of the day, like, if that person is causing harm to another person, that is abusive. And it's like, whoa, yeah, no, I see that. A lot of times people say things aren't abusive, aren't a certain way, but then they shift the frame so they can actually see it a little bit more clearly, and they're like, yeah, it actually is. Okay? But there's some people that are watching this are like, no, mine wasn't that way. What are you talking about? Okay? Well, I want you to consider how. How are they not abusive? How are they not this? How are they actually worth it? Because what you're walking into is you're walking into someone who expects you to appreciate their lies, expects you to appreciate things they haven't done, is preoccupied with other things in their life that leaves them with dissatisfaction of you, of everything. They look down on others that aren't good enough or that aren't special. They need to be adored no matter what. They expect you to comply at all times. They don't acknowledge that you have feelings or that your empathy, like your emotions, actually matter. Oftentimes they're divisive with envy about themselves, about other people, and they're arrogant over you. You're like, well, you just made all that up. No, all that's just DSM-5. It's just phrased a little bit different. Because when you hear and when you see and when you understand and when you start to wake up that the abuse you're going through is awful, is manipulative, stop minimizing it. Going back to the people that say, oh, my narcissist didn't cheat, okay? Let's just look up, a simple definition. What's a cheater? A cheater is a person who acts dishonestly to gain an advantage. Sounds like a narcissist. Because you have people that are in your life that are abusing you, acting dishonestly to either be with another person, to either be with themselves, to either do something to get more money, to look a certain way, to have a certain image, to hide the shame, to hide the shit that's inside. And as a result, that's why I normally say all narcissists are cheaters. Because it's true, they're always going to put something over you. End of the day, abuse is abuse. If you're not getting honesty, if you're not getting vulnerability, if you're not getting change in that other person that wants to change themselves, to heal, grow, and change themselves, to be a better person, is that worth it? Is that someone that you're going to settle for? You see, a toxic person in your life will keep you from rising to your full potential. They'll keep you from rising to be the person that you are meant to be or called to be or should be. I recently put a quote on TikTok, on Twitter actually, and it read this: living with a toxic person is like breathing through a snorkel when you're meant to breathe freely. The question that you have today, going back to the original question, is being with a narcissist worth it? The question you have to ask yourself today is this person going to help me rise to be the person I'm supposed to be, or are they going to keep me from my full potential?